Eric Spoelstra is a joke and his coaching illogical. Guess you can't expect more from a guy who doesn't know how many timeouts his team has left. But you'll know what I'm saying in a second. For the time being, welcome back. It's so good to be back. It's been a while since I put out a video. This is Tears of a Bookie. My name is Mo. Here we share free picks with detailed, meticulous analysis whenever we get the opportunity to do so. It's been hectic these past few days for me. Grad school is rough, tough, hard to bluff, but hey, I've had the time to, you know, go into some picks with a lot of detail for today's slate, especially one game in particular. You'll see. And let's just get right down to it. Of course, the goal here is to take down the bookies and have some fun while we do that. If you want to support us, of course, it'll be greatly appreciated if you like, subscribe, join the community, and yeah, the more the merrier, I guess. Thank you for those who have supported us and seen the videos or subscribed. Also, when you subscribe, you get to tell these picks as soon as they are out, so you do not miss out on them in terms of the lines being changed and just annoying things like that. But it's November 21st, and before going through the picks, of course, a bet recap. Now, this is from days ago. It's really annoying. I think it might have been why I kind of stopped giving out picks for a while. But it was just again one game that the picks were based on, the Miami Heat and Indiana Pacers game. I think they played each other one other time after this game, but this is the first time they played each other this season. And Tyrese Halliburton under 19.5 points. This one we kind of got lucky because he had 16 points to finish the first half, but finished with 18 points. They double teamed him, and also the coach just decided not to play him in crunch time towards the end of the game. But I mean, pretty much because the game was already decided, the Heat were going to win. It wasn't that close. Miles Turner over 7.5 rebounds, just not a great read there. Only had 5. But the one that hurt, of course, the same game parlay, Adebayo over 14.5 and Rozier over 11.5 points. Adebayo first half with 3 points is what he finished, but second half he came in and he scored a ton. I think he finished with 26. He did his job. But then Rozier, he finished with 10 points. We only needed 2 points, another bucket from him. But of course, Eric Spoelstra benched him. He only played 23 minutes this game. Every other game this season he had played over 30. It just made no sense to me because especially at the end of the game, all the other starters of the Heat were in. Bam was in, Hero was in, the other starters were in, but for some reason he decided to bench Rozier. Just crazy, man. Spoelstra, that is strike one. If you mess with us again, um, well, you'll find out. But in all seriousness, let's just get on with the picks today. Um, the strategy that I've been so far. Okay, before the picks though, again, it's been kind of up and down this NBA season. You can see the record and everything. Kind of stuck at even, but hey, a hot streak is due, and I think that it's coming today. Now, again, I'm mostly going to be focusing on one game. I've been doing this for the past few days and picks, and it's been working out pretty well. We went the first 2 games, we profited. The third one, we pretty much broke even. And the fourth one was, of course, this annoying Pacers Heat game. But hey, it's been fun to just watch one game, and I really like just going deep, deep diving in one game instead of just bouncing around in other games. Just focusing mostly on one game and the player props with that game. And the game that I'm focused on today is the Pistons and the which team are they facing? The Hornets. I know. This was the best game today. Everybody's going to be tuning in, and so I just could not. Why would I even consider the other games? This is the game everybody's talking about, and it's why I chose it. And to be honest, though, it's just there was a lot of value in the picks that I just could not pass up on. I really like them, and that's why I decided to go with this game. Enough blabbering though. Let's get right into it. I got about 12 picks, which is insane, but I've got 12 picks. We got a lot of picks today. At the end of these picks, also, that I do have a game bet, a game pick that is, it has nothing to do with this game, so it's for another game in today's slate. But let's get right into it, and let's start with the Hornets players, and let's start with their star player, LaMelo Ball, under 27.5 points minus 115 or decimal odds of 1.87 on Bet365 is pick number one for me. Now, this is kind of, it's strange because we are fading pretty much the best player they have and pretty much the best player all around in today's game, at least in terms of scoring. He's the player who is averaging the most. He is averaging 28.4 points this season. But he's always averaged under 24 points a game in the previous season, so this is kind of a career season for him. But first of all, let me just talk about Detroit. Let me just quickly talk about Detroit, and I'll get to Mr. Ball. Detroit is one of the top teams in the league in limiting point guards' points. It's a consistent stat too, which you love to see, which means they were also one of the best teams in this stat, limiting point guard points in the last 30 games of the regular season last year also. It's not just a new trend that the team's having this year. It's a consistent trend. I usually like picking up on those more than just new trends. But here are the recent point guards' points against them. Josh Giddey, 11. Carrington of Washington, 11. Davion Mitchell, 5. DeLon Wright, 0. DeLon Wright for the Bucks. He played for Lillard. Lillard was out. Rozier, 7. VanVleet, 7. Trae Young, 35. So he obviously went over. LaMelo, that's right, because the Hornets and the Pistons have already played each other once this season. He scored 25 in their first encounter, and D'Angelo Russell 11. So you can see that they've held most of the point guards to low points, and there's a great hit rate here. But again, Ball is averaging 28.5 points almost. It's a career year for him in terms of scoring. Last season, he scored 20 points or less. This is a stat regarding this pick here. He scored 20 points or less in 5 of the 7 games following a 20 points or below scoring game. So, for instance, if he scored 20 or less in a game, the game after that game, in 5 of the 7 of those games that followed that game, he scored less than 20 points or 20 points or under. This season, he's gone under 20 points 2 times, excluding the most recent game, of course. And games after those, under 20 score, games after those, he scored 31 and 25 points. So basically, one of the games he went under this line, the other one he went over. 1-1 there, pretty even. But this is what made me really like this pick. One of the reasons was, Detroit and their defense against point guards. But the second reason was LaMelo's history against the Pistons, his career stats against the Pistons. He scored 25 or less points in 11 of the 12 games he's played against the Pistons in his career. He's only gone over once where he scored 31 points. All of the other games have been 25 or less, including he's faced Cunningham 5 times, and 4 of 5 of those games, of course, he's also went under. He's averaging 21 points in his career against Cunningham. And LaMelo also, he was benched in his last game where they played against the Nets. It was the NBA Cup game, and it was a very close game, but deep in the fourth quarter, the coach decided to bench him because he was just having an awful game, shooting the ball terribly. I think he went 3 for 13 that game, and he also had low assists too. So, it's not unlikely that he's going to be more cautious today. He's going to be more selective with his shots and what he does. And, maybe he will not prioritize necessarily his own scoring, and he won't force bad shots. And, because he knows that if he does that again, he might just be benched again, right? So there's that too. And there's just all of these things that together make me really like this first pick of the day. Second pick, though, again, sticking to LaMelo, this is a defensive pick, and it's regarding his steals. LaMelo Ball over 1.5 steals, plus 100, or decimal odds of 2 on Bet365. Now, the Pistons are giving the 5th most steals to point guards this season. This is another consistent stat. And the last 2 games, the last game, Josh Giddey of the Bulls didn't have a steal, but before that, here are the point guards' steals. The point guard and the number of steals they've got when they faced the Pistons. Carrington, 2 steals. Davion Mitchell, 3 steals. DeLon Wright, 2 steals. Rozier, 1 steal. VanVleet, 3 steals. Trae Young, 2 steals. LaMelo Ball, 2 steals. And D'Angelo Russell, 1 steal. There's more, though. Schroeder, 3 steals. Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Maxey, both 2 steals. So, I mean, that is just insane, right? Like, the, most of these point guards, they had at least 2 steals, including LaMelo in the first time that he faced the Pistons. And LaMelo is averaging about 1.2 steals this year. He's gone over this line in only 4 of 14 games, but he's had at least 1 steal in all but 2 games this season. So right at the hook. And also 3 of his previous 4 seasons in the league, including his rookie season, he has averaged closer to 2 steals than one. So you can say that he's due for more steals this year. And he got injured and missed most of the season last year. If you remember, he only played about 20 or 30 games. But here are the steals he had in the last 7 games he played last season. I believe these are games in January. So here are the steals: 2, 1, 3, 3, 2, 3, and 5. So it was just a crazy last month last year. He averaged 2.7 steals in that month, January of last year. And so it just shows that he's capable of getting 2 plus steals consistently, even. Against the Pistons, he's also had 2 or more steals in 5 of the 12 career games he's had against them, including a game with 4 and another game with 5 steals. And also against Cade, he's gone 2 plus. He's had, when he was faced, when Cade was playing and that was his matchup, he has gone 2 plus steals in 3 of the 5 games where he's faced Cade and at least 1 steal in each of the other games. So, he's right at the hook line, and for plus value, I really like this pick. Moving on from LaMelo, though, we move on to his teammate, Brandon Miller, the sophomore. And I'm going for his over 16.5 points. Now, you can see the question mark here because this is not his original line. His original line is at 17.5. And, before recording this video, I could not find any alternative lines out there for him. Most of the books still do not have alt lines available. So I really could not get a value for this, but it's just 1 point less than his original line. And I like going for this alt line because, it could be very sharp. Now, Miller is averaging 16.7 points this season, and he's a streaky scorer. There's no secret in that, but he's always been solid against the Pistons. In his 4 career games against them, he's had 17, 23, 19, and 19 points, including his last game this season where he finished with 19 points, including a game-winning buzzer beater shot. So he is, he's feeling good about that, I'm sure, and he probably will have the confidence. Plus, he's coming off a season high 29 points scored game against the Nets. So I really like that combo there where he's hot and he is facing a team where he's confident against. He literally won the game for the Hornets in their previous matchup. And again, I'm not going for the original line because it could be really sharp. I don't know. I'm just playing it safe here because in the 4 games that I mentioned that he's faced the Pistons, if we do not include the buzzer beater in the last game, right? He would have had 17 points in that game. And that would mean that in half of the games he's played against the Pistons, so 2 of the 4, he has finished with 17 points, right? So that's why I like going with over 16.5 rather than 17.5. Although, of course, I don't hate that either. And also, it's not like the Pistons are guarding the shooting guards well either. They are guarding the point guards well, but shooting guards, not really. I mean, just recently, Kobe White had 25 points, Jordan Poole 22, Gary Trent Jr. 11, which for him is a lot because he's only averaging about 7.5 points this season. Tyler Herro 40, and Jalen Green 15 points. So, all but Jalen Green went over, and I like Brandon Miller going over as well. But next is another Hornets player who is probable for today's game, but he most likely will play. We've already cashed in from this guy when he faced the Hawks earlier in the season in the same game parlay, I think it was, regarding his points. But it's Miles Bridges over 15.5 points. And again, you see that question mark here because this is also an alt line. His original is at 16.5. It was 15.5, but it moved up to 16.5. And again, I kind of really like this alt line. The original line is fine too, but I like this alt line here. And just like the Brandon Miller line, the odds are still not available for this in most of the sports books that I checked. Now, first of all, the only reason I think his points line is so low, by the way, is because he is probable for this game due to left knee soreness, I think. So maybe his minutes will be limited. I don't know. There's nothing mentioned about that regarding him on the internet. Um, this line is just generally too low for Bridges, though. He's averaging 16 points this season, but last 2 seasons he's averaged 20 and 21 points. So, he's most likely going to start scoring more sooner or later. And he's definitely capable of, just finishing multiple games going over 20 points. And he's gone over this line, 15 and a half, in 6 of the 11 games this season, including the last 4 games. Here are his points in the last 4 games: 27 against Detroit. So he scored 27 against them in the previous matchup. 19, 19, and 21 in the other 3 games. Um, the four, these were the most recent games that he's played this season. And again, the matchup here is also decent, power forwards against Pistons. But what I really like is that he's gone over this line versus the Pistons in 9 of the last 11 games. So going back all the way to the 2019-20 season, even the 2 times he went under, one of them was on the hook at 15. He finished with 15 points. And the other one, he had 6 points, but he only played 23 minutes. But you might be asking, okay, what about his matchup against Tobias Harris? What's his history? What's his career stats when facing Tobias Harris? Well, I'm glad you asked. Um, of course, Tobias Harris, because he's the power forward on the Pistons team, so most likely there it's going to be his matchup. But it's still a great matchup because he's gone over this line in 8 of the last 9 times that he's faced Tobias Harris. So all around, this is a great line here, and I think it's too low. I really don't mind the original line either at 16 and a half, but I'm just gonna wait for the alternative line to be out there, and then I will go for that, and it'll be in the comments too. As soon as I get that, I will post it in the comments, so be sure to check it to see the best value for it there, at least among the sports books that I use. The next 3 picks are also for another Hornets players, and again, I'm going for the points, man. I really feel like I'm getting good reads for their points tonight. And this is Grant Williams, who is going to be playing, I think, in the center position for the Hornets. Um, my first pick regarding him is 10 plus points for 1 unit, minus 145 or 1.68 decimal odds on DraftKings. Now, Williams had a slow start to the season, but after the first 4 games, he has been playing for a lot more minutes and he's been scoring more, including 30 plus minutes in 6 straight games, and he's played as a starter in 3 straight games. And I mean, come on, the Hornets have 2 of their centers literally out. Nick Richards and the other center, I forgot what his name was, is out. So they literally have no choice but to either play with Grant Williams or the 40-year-old Taj Gibson, who can only play for 15 minutes a game, and just be gassed out, won't be able to play any longer. Which is why I think Williams has recently been getting a lot of minutes. Now he's averaging 10.4 points this season, but he has had 12 plus points in 4 of the last 5 and 5 of the last 7 games, including 12 points. He had 12 points when he faced Detroit. And last game he had 16 points against the Nets without even attempting a 3, which is strange because he's averaging close to 5 3 attempts per game. So even without shooting a 3, he still had 16 points. Against Detroit earlier this season, he attempted a season high 7 shots from 3 against Detroit, and he went 2 for 7. Which brings me to the next pick regarding him for just a quarter unit, 12 plus points, plus 130 or 2.3, decimal odds of 2.30. I think this is also on DraftKings. Again, I just mentioned that he's gone 12 plus in 5 of the last 7, including against Detroit. And yeah, I think, just an extra bucket for this plus money. I like it, just playing it for a quarter unit. Also, it is noteworthy to mention that this is also a great matchup. The centers have been crushing the Pistons recently. In the last 6 games, here are the points that they've had. Vucevic, 29, Sar, 4, Portal, 25, Brook Lopez, 29, Bam Adebayo, 20, and Alfred Sengun, 27. So aside from the rookie Sar, who plays for the Wizards, all of the centers have just crushed this team. And which brings me to the next pick regarding him. This is only for an eighth of a unit, which is extremely low, but it's because the odds are extremely low. The odds are at plus 750 or 8.5, and it's 18 plus points. Let me just explain here. Grant has not had more than 17 points in any of the 14 games this season, right? But I really think he's due for a 20 plus game or at least an 18 plus points game soon. And the reason for that is last season, after the Hornets acquired him, because for most of the season he was part of that Mavs team, but then there was a trade and then he, joined this Hornets team. When he joined them, he had 18 plus points in 10 of the 29 games for them. So that's almost, if you do the math there, it's almost 1 in 3. 1 out of every 3 games he scored 18 plus. He went for 18 plus. So I really like, just putting a little bit of money on it for odds of plus 750. But with that said, that's enough of the Hornets players. Let's move on to the Pistons players. And first player we're going to be talking about is Cade Cunningham, one of my favorite players in the NBA. And I'm being dead serious when I mention that. I actually really like watching him. A few years ago, Kyle Lowry was my favorite player in the league. Part of it was because I'm a Raptors fan, but I just love, just how tough and just how he played, man. It was just so fun to see. But now he's old, and I don't really have a favorite player anymore. But Cade is one of my favorite players to watch, that's for sure. But this first pick that I'm going for is a strange. It's not strange, but it's a new pick. We've never really went for a player prop like this, but it's interesting and I really like it. It's Cade Cunningham, 5 plus points for minus 150 or 1.66 in the first quarter. So 5 plus first quarter points on Bet365 for minus 150. Now this same line is at minus 330 or something like that on DraftKings. So I don't know why it's astronomically different, but that just makes me like it even more because of the difference in the value when we get it from Bet365. Cunningham is averaging 3.8 points per game in the first quarter of this season. He's only scored 5 or more points in 2 of the last 12. He's a player that usually gets hot in the second half of games and later on in the game, a lot of times in the fourth quarter. So why do I like this, you might be asking? Well, to me, this is one of those it's due picks. And also, there's another reason why I really like it. I mentioned that he scored 5 or more points in 2 of the last 12 games this season in the first quarter. Well, one of those 2 teams where he was able to go over this line was against Charlotte, where he had 12 points in the first quarter. That game he finished with 20 points. 12 of them were in the first quarter. So it's just against this team, he is aggressive from the start in the first quarter early on. Also, in 10 of the last 12 games that he's not been able to score 5 points, he's had at least 2 points, including in 6 straight games. And in most of them, he's also had at least 3 field goal attempts. But what I like is that he's gone 3 straight games against the Hornets going over this line. And in total, in his career, 4 of the 6 games that he's out of the 6 times that he's faced the Hornets, 4 of those games he's gone over this line. And what were his points in the previous 3 encounters, which means this season and last season? Well, let me tell you, 12, 12, and 8 points. So just blowing this line, we just need 5 here, man. Let's get it done tonight, Cade. That's enough games of you just not scoring 5 points in the first quarter, man. Just start scoring. You've done it before. It's your specialty scoring in the first quarter against this team. Just give me 5. But let's move on to the next pick. Again, Mr. Cade Cunningham. Um, and this is for his rebounds, over 6.5 rebounds. I'm playing this one for 3/4 of a unit, slightly less than a full unit, for minus 102, I think on FanDuel, if I'm not mistaken, or that's some odds of 1.98. Now, Cade has increased his rebounds to 7.3 this season. To show you how big of an increase this is, that is, he's averaging 5.3 rebounds for his career, despite this increase. But he's had 6 plus rebounds in 11 straight games and 13 of the last 14 games. So, he's been right on the hook of this line in 11 straight games. You gotta love that. And he's also had 7 plus in 8 of the last 14 games. So, more than half of them. But this dude had also something that I really like about him is that, when he faced the Pistons earlier this season, he had a triple double. And not only that, but he went 3 straight games with a triple double. So he went on a 3-game run getting a triple double, which means 10 plus rebounds in 3 straight games. We just need 7 here. But the matchup is great too. Cade was not the only point guard who crushed the boards when facing the Hornets. Here are the other point guards and the rebounds they had. Schroeder had 5. Garland had 5. DeLon Wright had 3, which is not that much, I guess. Jalen Suggs had 4, which he went under. Kyle Lowry 4. Halliburton 7. Cade Cunningham, of course, 10. Mike Conley 5. Jrue Holiday had 5 rebounds in 2 straight games against the Hornets. Davion Mitchell, he went under, but Terry Rozier 5. Trae Young had 8 boards. Freddie VanVleet 4, which is, I think it's under his rebounds line, but that was the first game of the season, and Fred VanVleet actually had less than 4 rebounds in 5 of his next 6 games after that season opener against the Hornets. So, it's just looking great. The matchup is a lot of point guards, like I said, have crushed them. Especially when you look at what these point guards are averaging, their usual rebounds per game, and the rebounds they had when they faced the Pistons, including Cade. Now, the only reason, again, why I'm not playing a full unit here is because, Cade is not, previous to this, before the season, Cade was not really known as being the greatest rebounding guard, right? Like I said, he's averaging about 5.5 rebounds for his career, and he's gone under this line when he faced the Hornets in all of his previous games in his career, excluding, of course, the game this season. So that's why I'm playing it a bit less. But he's a changed man, and he's taking, grabbing those boards seriously this year. And again, the matchup is also great. Let's get it done. I do not need a double double, a triple double, or even a double double from you. I just need 7 boards, bro. And of course, let's move on from Cade. No, we're not, because I have one more pick for him. It's a defensive line here that I liked and I could not pass up on. Cade Cunningham over 0.5 blocks, minus 115 or 1.87 on BetMGM. Now, this is strange. I know, we're going for a point guard to get a block. Like, that's just weird. Point guards don't be doing that, right? But Cade is averaging almost 1 block per game. I think he's at 0.9 blocks per game this season. And point guards have mysteriously, they've had a lot of blocks against the Hornets recently. In the last 2 weeks, the Hornets are the number 1 team in giving blocks to point guards, which is a crazy stat to even look at. Like, I don't even know how I, noticed this, but we just got to notice these trends and go for lines that are, that fall in line with the trend. In the last 8 games, of the Hornets, here are the blocks that point guards have been able to record against them. Schroeder recently had 2 blocks against them, which is insane. Why? Because prior to that game, he had no blocks. He had no blocks in any other game this season, and then he suddenly went for two against this team. Garland had 0 blocks, but Garland is averaging zero point 0.3 blocks per game, so he's averaging, less than a block per game. DeLon Wright had 3 blocks against them. Suggs had 1 block. Kyle Lowry had 1 block. Halliburton had 1 block. Cade in his previous matchup did not have a block, but that's okay. It makes things even better because it's highly unlikely, just looking at this track record and what he's averaging, for him to go 2 straight games facing the Hornets without a block. It could happen, of course. Anything could happen. We're betting here, but it's just unlikely. Also, Mike Conley had 1 block too. So Hornets, man, I don't know which player is the player that's getting blocked by point guards every game, but hopefully Cade can also get just 1 block, and um, we can profit from this pick here. Cade has also had 3 multi-block games this season, meaning more than 1 block in a game. Um, Against Milwaukee, he had 3 blocks, and against Boston, he had 4 blocks in just that one game. So man, 1 block, if he really wants it, he can get it. And I hope he sees this video, or someone tells him about it, or he's aware of this line, and he's like, man, let me just support my fans here and get a block and play defense tonight. Get this done, Cade, and make me like you even more. But let's move on to the final player prop of this game, the final pick for this game, and then we will move on. And this is for a player that we've kind of not really profited on, but we've had picks for this player before, just one time. It is Tobias Harris. It's another defensive pick here, over 0.5 steals, minus 120 or 1.83 on Bet365. Now, this is another defensive pick here that really caught my eye. The Hornets are third in steals, in giving steals to power forwards. Again, for the most recent games, looking at the most recent games, the Nets were the last team that faced them, and all of their starters had at least 1 steal against them. Evan Mobley of the Cavs didn't have a steal, and Giannis also didn't have a steal. De Silva of the Magic didn't have a steal, but he only had, I think, 1 steal. He only had steals in one game prior to that game. But before these 3 outliers here, Mobley, Giannis, and De Silva, here are what other players were able to get against them, the steals they had. Paul George and Caleb Martin of Philadelphia. I'm mentioning both of them because I don't know which one of them is considered as the power forward, but they're both forwards. And Paul George had 2 steals. Caleb Martin had 4 steals in that game. Siakam had 3 steals. Tobias Harris has already faced this team once. He had 1 steal in that game. Julius Randle, 2 steals. Al Horford, 1 steal. Jason Tatum, 3 steals. All of the Raptors forwards, at least 1 steal. Nikola Jovic of the Heat, 2 steals. Jalen Johnson of Atlanta, 2 steals. And the very first game of the season, Jabari Smith, 0 steals. So, most of these games, it's just been a steal fest. They've just been robbing the ball from him. And Tobias Harris has been one of the thieves here. Hopefully he can steal the ball again. He is averaging 0.7 steals this season. Now, you might look at his game log and you might see that he is on a 3-game steal list run, meaning that the 3 past games he has not been able to get a steal. But that makes me like this pick even more. Why? Because it's very rare for him to go on streaks of over 3 games. You know, 4+ games, stretches of 4+ games, not recording any steals. I actually looked at his game log for the past 2 seasons, and there were only 3 instances, if I'm not mistaken, where Toby went on a 4-game stretch without a steal. So it's very rare, and he's definitely, I think in his career, he is averaging at least 1 steal. He can definitely get it done here, and I just told y'all about the track record when it comes to steals against the Hornets. Also, in 9 of the 16 games this season, he's had a steal, and against the Rockets, he had 3 steals in that one game. So He can get it done, man. But that's enough of this game. It's going to be exciting watching this game with all of these picks. And if we go 11-0 on that game, I think I'm going to record the next video naked, shirtless, whatever. We'll do something. I don't know. But I do have one other pick, and this is a game pick. It is for a later game in the day, the Orlando Magic versus the Lakers. And I'm testing my not luck here because it's, I'm going to tell you all why I like this, but I'm going for a spread pick here only for half a unit because, we haven't been that hot in game picks this season, but, I want that to change, and I want that to change starting with this game tonight. It's at minus 107 or 1.94 on Bet Rivers. And let's talk about this. Well, the Magic have, after when they first lost Banchero, they were awful, right? They went 0-4 in the first 4 games after losing Banchero due to injury. But after those 4 losses, they just started picking things up. They started playing really well, and they went 6-0 until this most recent game against the Clippers last night, where they did lose. And I'm actually glad they lost because, they got that one bad game out of the way, right, out of their system. And now, with that one gone, because they were actually favored to win, right? But they straight out lost. Now I like them to keep it close against the Lakers. And it is a back-to-back, but honestly, back-to-back doesn't really affect NBA players and teams that much. I've been, just every now and then when I look at teams or playing back-to-back games, they generally play well. The most recent one that I can think of that comes right that I remember is the Raptors when they faced the Celtics in Boston. It was a back-to-back for the Raptors, and they, it was tied at the end of regulation and went to overtime. So a lot of times it does not affect NBA teams and players. But man, the Magic players, most of them were ice cold in this game against the Clippers, which is pretty much why they lost. Here are some of the points of the players. Franz Wagner, if I'm pronouncing that right, 14 points. He's their top scorer. He only had 14. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, only 2 points. Jalen Suggs, 16, which is pretty good, I guess. And Mo Wagner, his brother, only 10 points. So most of them just went under and severely under. And this is a good bounce back spot for them, for the Magic here. Lakers are undefeated at home this season, which is why this line is at, where it is, and why they're heavily, kind of heavily favored to win here. But, they're due for a loss at some point. And I don't necessarily expect the Magic to win, but I do expect them to cover this spread after their not so great game against the Clippers, where they were just ice cold. Let's make things right here by, just fighting, putting up a fight, and having a good game against the Lakers. But with that being said, we are done with the picks today. I will, 2 things before ending the video. One is that I will, in the comments again, for those picks that were, alt lines and there were no lines available at the time of recording, I will add that in the comments. So keep that in mind and check for that. Second thing, also, the Mavericks are playing today, and we are also doing this Luka Doncic triple-double hunt, right? That thing is going on. He did not get it done in his previous game against the Pelicans, but that was a blowout. He had 5 rebounds and 5 assists. If you don't know what this is, you can check the community post, the most recent one. I talked about it. I'm just expecting Luka Doncic to get his first triple-double soon. And we're still going to be only putting up an eighth of a unit, and hopefully find a book that has odds of plus 600 or better, or, well, worse, I should say, plus higher. And for 4 games, we'll do that. And then if he still doesn't get it done in 4 games, we will double it to a quarter unit. But, we still got 3 games for him, just playing it at an eighth of a unit for him to record a triple double, something that he's done great in all of his career, including especially last season, where about 21 or 22 of the entire season game regular season games. He played 72 games, I think. He had a triple double. So sooner or later, he's going to get one, and we're just trying to profit from that. Anyway, with that being said, thank you so much if you listen all the way to here. Um, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of the picks. If you enjoyed the picks and the information was helpful, again, consider supporting by subscribing, liking, all that. And I'll see you next time. Take care and let's take down the bookies tonight.